Tell us about your misconnection story, how it began.
Well, I was waiting for the elevator in New York City in high school. I was 15 years old, and it went to the 15th floor, and I lived on the 10th floor. And then I went to the 10th floor, and I walked in, and there was just this gorgeous man, and so I didn't know what to do. I walked in, I was like, oh hi, and then and he was like, did you call Laura? I was like, what? And then I realized that the night before I'd written call Laura on my hand. And so he'd looked at my hand and read was up. I don't know. It just I was so overwhelmed with thinking we were flirting. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's crazy. I did. And then I left, and then I told all my friends about it, and I was like, he was so hot.
How old was he?
He was probably in his 30s. And I was 15, and I had braces. And I really felt like he was flirting with me. So looking back now, it's a little inappropriate, but in that moment in my life, it was a beautiful experience.
And did you ever run into him again on the elevators?
Yes, I did. I did many, many mornings, and I started to see the routine that if it stopped at 15 before 10, he was going to be on it. So, if it went to 15, I'd be like, oh my god. And then he'd come in and be like, hey. And there was actually another time that I was on the elevator with my mom, and when we got off, she was like, what the hell? That man was, staring at you the whole time. It's actually really, if you, think back, it's kind of creepy, but I was like, what? He was? She was like, yeah, you have braces. You're, young. He's, 35. It was so weird. And I was like, yeah. I would leave in a high of excitement, and I just the whole day would be happy, and I'd just replay it over and over in my head. And then my apartment had a party gathering of apartments, and they had little tags, and you would say what apartment you lived at and what your name was. And so his said Jeff 15C, and he was there with his fiance, and I was like, oh my god. And I barely talked to him, but I was like, Jeff, that's his name. That's when I found out what his name was. And then they moved, and I was so sad. It's just Jeff from 15C is gone. I think that I'm a little more aware of that, that was kind of a weird situation, but I'm not gonna lie, I probably have this much of a crush on him.
So when did your misconnection story happen?
Oh, it happened earlier this semester, I think in kind of the middle of February.
Tell us what happened.
So I'm walking out of a party in the apartments, right? And it's February, and it's kind of chilly, and I'm from Buffalo, so I'm no stranger to cold, and I'm wearing a good jacket. It's it's a little chilly, and I walk out, and I'm walking past a group of people who are also leaving a different party across the street in a different apartment, and none of them are they're all wearing like tank tops and things, and I'm like, yo, it's 20 degrees out, aren't you all cold? And just this girl, I had no idea who, started talking back to me about it. Not talking back as in sass, but we just started talking back. And I was kind of giving her, I was joking around. I was like, oh, your mother would tell you to put on a jacket. You're gonna catch a cold. And we're just ribbing each other. She gave me her name, and they invited me to go with them to their party. And I was like, oh, I want to go home and go to bed because it's 1 a.m. and I didn't think to give her my name, and then that was that. I went home and went to bed and never saw her again.
What's your misconnection story? Tell us how this all began.
Well, my misconnection story started around 7 years ago. I was in a CCD class at my local church, and I was a part of a youth group, and they had this event going on, and it was a paintball game. So I decided to sign up. It was my first ever paintball game, and I remember getting on the bus, and I saw the first eye contact I made was with this boy who was sitting in the middle, and he made eye contact with me, and I just kind of sat in the front. And I was really close with my religion teacher back then. My religion teacher knew that I liked to do riflery, So when we got over to the place, he introduced me. We kind of stuck together because neither of us really knew anyone else at the paintball game. Oh, his name is Andrew. When I first met him, he seemed really nice. He seemed a bit shy as well, but over time, throughout the paintball game, as we kept sticking by each other and cooperating to try to beat the other team, we both started to open up to each other more. We were going back home, and I kind of had like a little crush on him as well. So I gathered up the courage to ask to sit next to him. So we did. We sat next to each other on the bus, and we were heading back home. And we just kept talking throughout the ride. It was about an hour-long ride, and we just kept talking about anything, and it turned out we had a lot of similar interests.
What do you guys, what you have in common?
We both like the same kind of colors as well.
What kind of colors?
Our favorite color is black. He was dropped off first. At the end of the ride, we tried to exchange numbers. My phone was dead, and he didn't have his phone.
You didn't write it down or anything, or remember your phone numbers?
We had no pen or paper. Neither of us could remember. So, yeah, he got off, and that was, I thought that would be the last time I saw him. But I actually saw him a few months after at the same church. And that's when I spoke to him. I said, "Hey, I'm the girl from the paintball game." And we exchanged phone numbers then. I was really happy. I got like the butterflies in my stomach kind of feeling. So I thought he really wouldn't remember me, but that feeling was like, oh, he did. We tried to make a plan to hang out, and we went to the movies to see Chronicle. That was a while ago. So we went. I actually made a plan to go with a few of my friends as well as him, but they canceled out at the last second to see The Vow. And I was pretty much alone with him watching the movie. I kind of got a little bit panicked because that was like the first time that I went alone to the movie theater with a boy.
Were you happy that your friends canceled, or were you more nervous?
Both. After the movie, we just went home, and that was pretty much it. I tried to get back in contact with him after that, but we kept missing each other. So if I would try to call and say, "Hey, can you come to this event?" he wouldn't be able to do it, or he just never responded. And then it was like the same my way. He would try to ask me, and then I couldn't do anything. And that went on for about 2 years. After that, I got a new phone, and all of a sudden I thought about Andrew again. I said, what if I text him and invite him? And I did, and that was like the right time for us to actually meet up again. And by that time, I was maybe 15 or 16, and he was a year older than me, so 16 or 17. And so we met up, and I got that butterfly feeling again. And we just talked about high school and just caught up with everything. A year after that, we started to talk and hang out way more. So we became even closer through that. And it came to a point where I asked him out to prom. He said yeah, and we went together. We started hanging out as friends and everything. A few weeks later, this was like a week after his birthday, Andrew's birthday, he told me that he liked me, and he asked me out. And I was just really baffled that he finally asked me out. I said yes, of course. We have been together since then. That was 2 years ago. I remember after a few months after we started dating, I had asked him about what he thought about, the past few years before that of, missing each other, never really getting to hang out, and then slowly kind of leading up to that moment of when he asked me out. And it turned out he actually had a crush on me ever since he saw me. So I thought that was really interesting that, we both saw each other and we were like, I like that person. Yeah, it was kind of like love at first sight. My advice would just be to go for it.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your misconnection story.